that strength. The Security Council again today kind of made that point known this morning at our breakfast that we have to make sure we stand strong on this, and we'll see what happens. Russia and China continue.
I think it might be helpful to have him in the room at the table as well for this meeting.
Okay, thank you, Michelle. I appreciate it. So first of all,
Can I ask you about Idlib, Ambassador? You've called for a meeting on Friday. Mm-hmm. You've already put out strong words in a tweet. The President has put out strong words in a tweet too, and they've been dismissed by Moscow and Damascus. We're obviously going to get words of condemnation on Friday, but what more than words? What action can you do? And going back to that book, staying on the subject of Syria, the book claims that President Trump ordered Assad to be assassinated, and then General Mattis refused to carry out those orders. From your knowledge of the situation, is there truth in that?
Thank you. I will tell you, Idlib is serious. Let's just acknowledge the elephant in the room, and that is the fact that there are rumblings. Yes, Russia's making accusations about opponents, white helmets, everything else. Assad is doing the same thing. That is the exact formula they always follow before a chemical weapons attack that Assad does on his own people. What you are seeing is the president saying to Iran, Russia, and Assad, don't go there. We're not going to accept it. It's not okay. What you're saying from us and the fact that the Security Council wants to talk about it is do not let a chemical weapons attack happen on the people of Idlib. The people of Syria have been through too much. This is a tragic situation. And if they want to continue to go the route of taking over Syria, they can do that. But they cannot do it with chemical weapons. They can't do it assaulting their people. And we're not going to fall for it. If there are chemical weapons that are used, we know exactly who's going to use them. And this is the exact same playbook that Russia and Iran and Assad have used every time. And the OPCW has come out and said that we know chemical weapons are used. There's no denying it. The only ones that deny it are Russia, Iran, and Assad. So I think this is for us very typical, but what you're seeing is the Security Council come together and say, we're not going to stand by and wait until after the chemical weapons attack. We want to have a meeting now to discuss what should not happen. I think you saw the president get out in front of it yesterday and say, don't make us have to respond, because he's made it very clear if chemical weapons are used, the United States will respond.
And on the assassination of Assad, you are privy to all of those secret talks. Can you tell us, has that ever been planned or contemplated?
I have the pleasure of being privy to those conversations when we've dealt with each chemical weapon strike, when we've dealt with all of the responses, when we've dealt with everything, and I have not once ever heard the president talk about assassinating Assad.
Benny, in the back.
Welcome, Ambassador. Benny Avni of New York Post.
Where am I looking?
Over here, over here.
Way in the back, okay.
So, you visited Latin America recently, and let's tie it up with Iran. Oh, let's start first with Iran. What exactly are you planning to have in that meeting on Iran? Is it going to be on JCPOA? Of course, there's like some dispute between you and other members of the Council, including allies, about that. And also, did you learn anything in Latin America about Iran's involvement in that region?
I think that, there is a growing concern about Iran, and some are old things, some are new things. But I think if you continue to look at the spread Iran has had on supporting terrorism, if you continue to look at the ballistic missile testing that they're doing, if you continue to look at the sales of weapons like we see with the Houthis in Yemen, these are all violations of Security Council resolutions. And these are all threats to the region, and these are all things that the international community need to talk about. President Trump is very adamant that we have to start making sure that Iran is falling in line with international order like every other country. And we continue to see them engage in things that are not helpful. And whether it's in Lebanon, whether it's in Yemen, whether we're looking in Syria, all of these issues, we continue to see one factor that is exactly the same, and that's the presence of Iran. So we are going to talk about that, and I understand that there are some members who find that uncomfortable to talk about, and I personally think that when we talk about things that are uncomfortable in the Security Council, good things happen.
Who are privy to more than anybody else, that he is going to do in order to make the deal of the century. What is going to happen?
So are we talking about Pakistan or That's it.
George?
Ambassador on Iran, Latin America, could you address that question that I asked? Yeah.
No response on that.
Yeah. Did you? Yes. Joseph Kleiner, Canada Free Press, and a proud New Yorker, I must say. Anyway, my question is regarding a statement by a UN Special Rapporteur who deals with Iran, who criticized the U.S. sanctions on Iran and claims that only the Security Council, under the UN Charter, has the authority to impose sanctions, and he called the U.S. sanctions, quote, illegitimate. So I'd like to know your views in both your capacity now as the President of the Security Council and in your national capacity regarding this assertion. Thank you.
My views in both capacities are the same, which is we made this very clear at the time that when we saw that Iran was violating Security Council resolutions, we called on the international community to do something about it. We asked them to address it. We told them we would work with them on it. We tried to talk to them about resolutions, and we got nothing. And so President Trump said, we're not going to be in a deal that's a farce. And since then, we have talked with our European allies. We've talked with other allies about the situations of Iran. They all agree it's a problem. I think that this was a situation where sometimes you have to admit that a deal you worked on was not perfect. And, you know, we had hoped that they would try and correct it. They didn't want to do that, so now we're back at where we were. The United States believes that we have the ability to have those sanctions put on Iran because it goes back to the fact that we think they violated Security Council resolutions and others. We have seen that whether it's North Korea or whether it's Venezuela, they all have issues when we put sanctions down on their countries for certain reasons, but the United States feels that we have that right.